Hi, besties. You've found your community bestie to share thoughts and opinions, recap the shows we love.
Having too much fun.
Bravo should be fun. And have piping hot gossip sessions about the celebrities and Bravo lebs we love, hate, and love to hate. He went on a podcast claiming he had a threesome with two women from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Immediately, I was like, I wonder if it's Brandy and Carlton.
I'm Caitlin Marshall, your pop culture and Bravo bestie. Allegedly allegations. And if you enjoy fun conversation between friends, listening to your bestie rant about shows we can't get enough of, plus enjoy a little bit of, well, ridiculousness.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. There's a spider that is coming down. Hold on.
It's like the Blair Witch Project.
Oh my God. Has anybody seen my ring?
Oh my God.
I don't want to ruin the party or anything.
Have you seen my ring? Oh my God. Can you look on the floor for my ring? God, someone's gonna kill me.
Don't mess with me because I will come.
What? Oh.
Feel free to leave that in for whatever entertainment purposes.
You're in the right place. So thanks for joining me on Besties by Bravo. Hi, besties. Thank you for joining today. It's Wednesday, May 21st, and we are recapping The Valley, Season 2, Episode 6. This has been a long day of recording for me because if you are watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, honey, I am recapping them all, and these episodes are beefy. They are like on steroids. Okay. They are so long and it's a lot of note taking. So I'm getting this one out a little later in the day than usual. Thanks for being such a great little bestie and being understanding. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure and like the video. Join the conversation. And if you're listening on audio, do your girl a solid, please, and leave a 5-star review with maybe a comment about what you love about this show. It really is a great way to support. Anyway, let's get into it. I've been talking for hours today. And you know, it's funny because I always still have a lot to say. My mic is about to fall over. Excuse me. Oh, okay. Okay, we're good now. We open with Zach and the girls. We've got Nia. I'm sorry, I just finished recapping episode 2 of Secret Lives, and it is a mind-boggling switch up in the brain. Okay, we're here. We're ready to go. Hi, I'm Caitlin. All right, we're picking back up in Brittany and Zach's room where Janet, Nia, and Jasmine are, and it's just kind of a disaster. Zach brings up to Brittany the number of times that she surely had covered up for Jax, and Jasmine is saying that's not what it is. It's about rather that Brittany has put her whole life on display while Nia won't admit to this little thing. But also, why does Nia have to admit her husband is drunk napping in order for you to feel better about Jax Taylor being a narcissistic pasta addict? Okay. Jasmine tells Nia to just be honest and asks why she was saying Daniel was just tired when Nia says he was tired, exhausted, and yes, he's drunk. Okay, happy now? Nia admits that, yeah, she only mentioned that he was tired and exhausted and asks why two things can't be true at the same time because he is exhausted and drunk. In confessional, Jasmine admits she's a bit too worked up, but that it's about the fact that she has dealt with dark side Danny before. And, you know, that is also fair. Okay. Nia points out what should be painfully obvious by asking Brittany if she ever had nights herself where she was just like, yeah, Jax is being whatever because of X, Y, and Z. In confessional, Jasmine says that the feelings from dealing with the disrespect from dark side Danny don't just go away overnight. Again, I know it seems like Jasmine's going hard, but we find out more, like even more so why it was so upsetting and triggering for her. And I think because we find out so much more, it gives us more reason to give her more grace. She also says Nia needs to just acknowledge what's going on. Jasmine says she's having Brittany's back in this moment because to her it seems like no one else is wanting to have her back. And I do love that sentiment, but at the same time, just because Brittany is going through a hard time right now, it doesn't mean that when we realize Brittany's being ridiculous, I don't want to say ridiculous, being too over the top because she's triggered and hasn't had the proper therapy to help her deal with the triggers, it doesn't mean you have to have her back when she's wrong as well. And I do get where Jasmine is coming from because Brittany, again, she's just triggered and wants to see and point out that Danny and Nia don't have a perfect relationship because she knows, I mean, there is not any number of ways that Brittany could say that she is well aware she and Jax have never had a perfect relationship. Okay. I think for Brittany, she just needs to see this perfect couple crack, but that shouldn't be at the expense of the couple that seems to be a very good match and for the most part in a healthy relationship. Zach says to Jasmine, no, we do have Brittany's back. And God bless Daniel comes walking in like one of the zombies he does voiceover for, risen from the dead. He's like, what's going on, you guys? How we doing? Everybody having fun? You kids need any snacks? But Nia is just straight up glaring daggers at him. Jasmine starts explaining to Danny that Brittany is upset that she puts every little thing going on in her life out to the world while they aren't. And Nia tells Danny, look, I'm just going to have to explain everything to you later, which in confessional, Danny is just like, what is going on in here? Brittany tells him that they shouldn't have to hide things. And Danny, again, is just like, huh? What am I hiding? Is this to me? God, to be one of those straight white men that just come in late when it's already de-escalated and they just have no idea what's going on. But he's jaw on the floor and Nia tells him again, it's a conversation they'll have to have later, maybe in the kitchen, something like that. Brittany and Nia are resolving things and say, I love you to each other. But Jasmine thought she was still supposed to be going because she's wound up and the timer hasn't run out yet. So she's saying over and over that Brittany's life, how it's been on a platter, like slaughtered here, and everybody else is just tiptoeing around it. Jasmine, you can hit the off switch now. You're good, babe. You did your job. Nia is so pissed and gets mad at Danny about drinking an energy drink when she walks into the kitchen because she's like, why are you drinking an energy drink right now when we have to get up in the morning and go be parents? He claims it's not an energy drink, but he thought it was go time, y'all. That's why he's drinking. He's like, oh, great. Got to get up and work again. Got to get that go-go juice. They go into their room where Nia is so angry and she says she just needs a minute to breathe because there's a lot of adrenaline going through her body at the moment. And he tries to hug her, but she doesn't want to be touched right now. Don't freaking touch me. She starts to tell him what happened and how it was admitted that, yes, he had too much to drink and fell asleep, but he immediately wants to start denying that he did have too much to drink. And you know what? She's now being raked over the coals for not saying he had too much alcohol. So guess what? Nia's like, no, you are not going to get away with trying to say that. Okay, we're calling a spade. Let that go because I've just really taken a beat down for you, sir. Anyway, it's pointed out this dude got back to their home in, I think they live in Encino at 11 p.m., left for work at 5 a.m., then drove straight out there to meet them. And I would have been sauced whether I had a drop of alcohol or not. Okay, let me be very clear on that. In Brittany's room, it's Janet, Brittany, Jasmine, and Michelle. And Janet is going to tell the story of the pantry and her quest for an Easy Mac cup and how Danny came in and supposedly took some swigs of tequila. It's now turning into Danny has a drinking problem. I think if anyone can say that, it's only, aside from it being Danny and Nia who say that, it's Jasmine and like her girlfriend Melissa, now fiance. In confessional, Janet says she's been with someone in the past with addiction issues, so she can relate to Nia on that. And again, when did anyone say he had an actual addiction? Yeah. Anyway, she adds that Nia needs to say what it actually is because hiding it causes more questions to be asked, so it feels inauthentic and fake. The part that I do agree with is yes, the more you try and hide something on one of these shows, we all know the more questions everyone is going to have because that's their job. In Nia and Danny's room, her poor little voice hits another octave. Danny, I said, and he was upstairs, drank, and he had nappy time. And he starts trying to interrupt her, and she's on repeat. Daniel, let me finish a sentence. Let me finish a sentence. And then she's been through it. But she's upset mostly because Brittany talked behind her back. In confessional, she says that she and Daniel protect each other, not airing the dirty laundry out. And they have those type of conversations behind closed doors. Also, when she let the mask slip for half a second on the Sprinter van or whatever, the bus, whatever we're calling it, and she told Danny, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to listen to your wife. Every damn one of you freaked out like someone got called into the principal's office. You won't let her be anything but perfect. Did you realize that either? Janet decides they should all say to Nia that if she's going through something because of Daniel's drinking, that they're also there for her, trying to rally the troops and set it all up clearly. The next morning looks like hell. There's pizza all over the place. It's a disaster. And Brittany wants to avoid everyone for the most part and slip out a side door in the back because, it's time to go home. But it's also probably because she's embarrassed she was drunk yelling at someone about not admitting their husband was drunk when they were napping. I'm sorry. They are parents of 3 very teensy tiny children on what? I'm sorry. I did not realize that when we were on vacation, we are not allowed to drink and take a nappy poo. Let them live. Now, if Danny starts that really inappropriate behavior again, then yes. This is not the first time something like that has happened, though. We've heard about Dark Side Danny, but the napping aspect shouldn't have been the thing. Back in LA, Michelle is at Runyon. Is she on the hunt for honey, Jesse? Where there's a will, Sheena Marie Shea will find a way. And don't you know she's pissed as hell that her Chiron just says Michelle's friend. Hi, Sheena. Okay, so Sheena bought her house from Michelle. And that's interesting. See, Jesse, she did make a commission. She may not have taken a fee from Sheena, but what about the homeowners? I don't know who she was representing. And the way she said that, it sounds like she was representing the owners. So in confessional, Michelle explains to us how she has a friendship with Sheena, and it's so wild to me that there truly are people out there who haven't watched Sheena Marie on Vanderpump Rules. It's all happening. So apparently Michelle and Aaron had been doing great until she told them about what happened in Santa Barbara. Michelle tells Sheena that Aaron told her that while he loves her and Isabella and wants a family with them someday, he doesn't know if he can deal with Jesse. And we get a flashback to a scene with Michelle and Aaron. Sir, are you okay? You always look like you are so startled, as if you maybe had just seen and walked in on your grandfather naked and saw his balls by accident and just realized that your balls will also look like that someday too. It's very scary. Basically, he told Michelle that it may be better for them to not be in a relationship if this craziness with Jesse continues. And Sheena tells her she can't lose Aaron because she's never seen her smile like that when talking about Jesse. And Michelle says that everyone just thought that she was a non-smiling, robotic, negative person and that was her normal self. No, definitely not what we've thought, Michelle. At all. No, we've found you to be full of energy and life. At Jesse's house, his life coach, who used to be his and Michelle's marriage coach, shows up. He comes over. And I swear to God, if this doesn't give me the feeling of one of those alpha male camp coaches, you know what I'm talking about, like the one that Louis Ruelas went to, Teresa Giudice's husband. That's what it's giving me. Anywho, he tells him, Jesse does, about the Santa Barbara trip and says something so very odd to me, that in everything with the divorce, he didn't grieve whether he won or lost. Okay. He tells the coach that Michelle admitted to cheating on him, but he does that first because and he doesn't tell him how he called her a hooker first. He He then adds that she doesn't believe that he was not cheating on her when he would be out drunk with his friends for hours. And guess what? I don't necessarily believe that you weren't doing that either. And the coach is acting like a buddy, in my opinion, and not like a coach therapist, which I don't know if that's what he feels like he's supposed to be a therapist. But he tells Jesse that it was a projection on her part. Maybe it was, but Jesse does admit to calling her a whore. How very big of you, Jesse. That's just good for you. You're making so much progress. And I feel like this coach absolutely watches Bravo because he tells Jesse that doing things like calling Michelle, the mother of his child, a whore makes him bad because now when he goes off the deep end, calling her a prostitution whore, and now doing that, everyone forgets the part that she was cheating for 2 years. And, I feel like we're missing a lot of context in this cheating aspect because Jesse's version is that Michelle was cheating for 2 years. And it sounds as though hers is that she kissed someone while Kristen had also, remember, said last season that she had a whole boyfriend. So again, we're missing a lot of context here. And then his coach tells Jesse, here's the path. The path is looking at your life as a metaphor of a garden. And your attention is water, and you're planting seeds all the time with your actions. Whatever you put your attention on will inevitably grow. If you put your attention on the roses, they will flourish. Same thing will happen with poison ivy. I mean, yes, it's a great metaphor, but sir, I do not believe on any planet that you came up with that on your own. He does, at the very least, tell Jesse he needs to be accountable and stop acting like a dick. But Jesse does wish there was an easier solution because he would rather do something like take deep breaths, walk on the beach, than be accountable for his own actions and not call his wife a hooker and a whore. God, imagine if if there were just like a magic pill or a button to press. Men really will do anything to avoid things sometimes. Now, alpha male coach tells him to scream into a pillow, and it's flashbacks of him and Michelle fighting. It's very yes, it made him feel better, but this is why I also say to practice screaming in your car. Now, make sure you're in a rural area, okay? But sometimes just fully screaming with nothing hindering you, y'all, that shit feels good. And also kind of hurts physically, but also no one is going to bother a person in their car who is alone and just screaming bloody murder. They usually are trying to get away from them. And you know what? It's really nice to let it go after so many years of only screaming on the inside. Aw, yay for Kristen and Luke. They have a new house and they are planning on moving out of the same condos that I lived in. In confessional, Luke tells us this house they're renting is one step toward their future where he will be proposing. And I hope Kristen, because we know she's very preggers right now, has been floating her prego belly in that pool because I could not believe how good it felt to be in a pool when I was a gigantic beast. Oh my God, that was so much better when I finally let my big ass float in the water. Kristen and Luke are giving Jasmine a tour of the house because she's come over, and they walk in on Gibson humping his toy. It's very reminiscent of Kristen in her, little age of 27 on Vanderpump Rules. They go outside, and Kristen ventures into the whole issue with Jasmine and Nia. And Jasmine says she does not want to, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Yes, I got this would have completely changed the context. Jasmine says she does want to apologize to Nia. I mean, you and Brittany were like two drunk people yelling at sweet Nia about her husband being drunk. And babe, I know you two ladies were not about to admit you were drunk yourselves in that moment. So you could at least, go there. When Kristen says that Danny was really tired, it's just like he was. Jasmine, ma'am, I have to tell you, I fully wish you knew. When it comes to voice acting, you do not just stand in a booth and talk. It is actually twice as exhausting at times than having a camera on your face. Because here's the thing, you have to put 5 times as much energy, volume, and intensity into voice acting because you have to emote 1,000,000 times over for someone to feel what you're feeling and what you want them to know you are feeling just in their ears. The amount of energy. And Danny does like the screaming. He does like the video game voiceover. He does like really intense stuff. I wish people understood, like, being in a small dark room for a long time, screaming into the abyss, yelling, trying to get the right tone over and over and over and over. It is exhausting. So, Jasmine, I love you to death, but absolutely not. That was an ignorant thing to say. Okay. Jasmine admits to Kristen that she was probably triggered because of how Danny treated her and Melissa at the bar on Halloween. And in confessional, what Jasmine says here is so very important because I don't think people get that this is such a real thing for any couple that's not in a heterosexual relationship. She says that it's so much harder to be in a queer relationship than a straight one because for her and Melissa, just being at a bar, men not taking us seriously, it's just fetishized to like, ooh, two women together. Oh, it's not that serious. I can touch them, do whatever, and say certain things. And ladies, especially ladies, like, let's be so for real here. Have you ever gotten a little too touchy-feely with a gay man, even though he was standing there with a partner because you thought it was okay to be that touchy-feely since he's not interested in you in that way anyway? Because I know I have. I've been too touchy. I'm sure that I wouldn't have at all if a female he were in a relationship was standing next to him. I mean, obviously, I've not groped someone or grabbed someone's butt that I didn't know. My God. But I mean, I wouldn't be touching, grabbing a gay man's or grabbing a man's arm the way I have a gay man's unless he was doing that with me, you know. But if his wife or girlfriend were standing there, no effing way. So I think, you know, I'm all about, hey, I'm not perfect. No one is. I love having a learning moment. And I love that it made me think about, am I treating someone who's not in a heterosexual relationship as though I don't take it as seriously, even if I do? It's sometimes you just really need to take a step back and think about what's happening and how it could be perceived by the person that you're interacting with. Good lesson, at least for me. I felt like it was. Jasmine makes a great point that if Danny had pulled that same type of thing with Janet and it were Jason there, you know, get daddy a drink, grabbing a booty, then it probably would have ended in a fight or something. So Kristen says she and Luke talked about it all. And if it were the same situation for them and he'd been ripping shots, then gone to sleep after working and all of that, then she would have also just said that he's tired. And Lucas, okay, that's not your name, but I just like saying it. Lucas, snaps for you, sir. Luke goes, so what if someone got drunk and fell asleep? Everyone gets drunk in this group. Since when does it matter? Yes, sir. I am just loving Luke for Kristen more and more and more and more and more. Now, there's going to be a girls' dinner in a few days, but oh, Danny goes with Luke to look at the ring he's getting for Kristen to propose. Oh. And of course, Kyle Chan is where we're getting the ring. It's, you know, Kyle Chan and Sheena, they always find a way on Bravo. Where there's a will, there's a way. It is fascinating how that is Kristen's ex's, like her ex-boyfriend's bestie that this ring is being purchased from, where also her ex-boyfriend's best friend got his ex-wife's ring, who you used to be besties with and lived in the same building. What a full circle moment, because I'll explain it further, because that is Tom Sandoval's bestie, Kyle Chan is. And it's also where Tom Sandoval's bestie, Tom Schwartz, got the ring for Katie, who is now his ex-wife and who also used to be one of Kristen's best friends and was a witch of WeHo. That's wild. Danny is asking after a ring that they're looking at and what its 4 C's are. And, you know, what is it? Cut, clarity, color, and carrot. Duh. Caitlin. In confessional, Luke tells us that Kristen told him she would cut his balls off if he spent more than $10,000 on a ring. And this one, it's $14,000. Oh, but he says it really hit him that Kristen was the one when they were on this road trip to Indiana with 4 dogs in tow, and he never thought he'd find anyone he could do something like that with. Oh, so cute. I'm so happy for them. Isabella is with Jesse, and that cutie patootie is an exact mix of the two. And she is so beautiful and sassy, and I love that little sassafras. Michelle drops off a key of Isabella's that she put in the fridge somewhere. You know, toddlers, 3-year-olds, what are you going to do? In confessional, Jesse says that there are some deep-rooted issues between him and Michelle and that there's just so much resentment at this point. He does believe it will work itself out, which when he was on Watch What Happens Live with Danny, he did say that he and Michelle were in a much better place. Thank God you two were just being raging assholes. It is time now for the girls' dinner, and Brittany hired a chef, and my goodness, he is handsome. She offers him a shot, and in confessional, she admits, we think he's very cute, and that they've hired him before, and that they all think he's very attractive. Now, Nia shows up after Brittany admits to the other girls she's a bit nervous about this, and it's noticed that everyone but Nia is in black and gray until Kristen shows up to save the day in her orange little scarf dress. That's what it's called. Sorry, I couldn't remember. Please, Brittany, I'm begging you, for the love of God, get a stylist who knows how to dress your gorgeous body. I happen to also be kind of top heavy. I've got very broad shoulders. I've got bubbies. Wearing a bow of any kind in the chesticle area will make this appear twice as big because that thin bow was not great. A pussy bow, not great. There's no winning. No bows. No bows. It's awkwardly quiet, so Brittany starts it off and apologizes to Nia for how she handled everything with her and admits they were drinking all day. But because she knows better, she admits drinking isn't an excuse, but that yes, it brought everything out tenfold, having the alcohol involved. And Jasmine herself then apologizes as well and admits she shouldn't have raised her voice at Nia to that extent. Nia is very gracious with them because we knew she wouldn't be anything but that. And, she says basically that them waiting until she left the table to say anything about her was really what was the most hurtful part for her. She's emotional because obviously she's not the type of person to have big ass crazy confrontations with people, especially like in her everyday life. No, that's just doesn't feel like who she is. Jasmine brings up Danny getting drunk and handsy with her and Melissa back in October, and she says that's why she got so triggered. Nia says that incident is where a lot of recent issues for her and Danny have stemmed from, and admits that there were several weeks where she and Danny were not in a good place. In confessional, she says that they put the work in to do individual, group, and marriage counseling, therapy, all of it. So that's how they got to this better place. Michelle tells Nia that she pretends like everything is perfect, and that's what people are noticing. Nia says the perception of how she is different because they probably don't know where she comes from or her background. She tells them that she and her mom were homeless when she was growing up, in shelters, on people's couches, and doing things like pitching tents in people's backyards. Oh, Nia. In confessional, Kristen says she had no idea that Nia had been through so much. And then she says, if I hear anyone say anything negative about Nia, they're going to have to deal with me first. And the way Kristen and I are just like completely alike on this. Also, the way this reminded me of Sandra Bullock's little monologue speech in Miss Congeniality, and how then it's also even more ironic that Nia was Miss USA. And if anyone tries to hurt one of my new friends, I would take them out. I would make them suffer so much that they'd wish they were never born. And if they ran, I would hunt them down. Thank you, Kathy. Nia tells the girls that she was homeless even as an adult when she had a job. She would be sleeping in her car and having to deal with the security guard at her job telling her she had to leave, that she couldn't be parked in the employee parking lot overnight. So she would then have to go drive to the grocery store and sleep in that parking lot. In confessional, she says that she chooses positivity and light because she would rather bring that into people's lives. I will protect you, goddammit, Nia. Oh, she tries to tell them that she's been through so much and tries to stay as positive as possible. Like when she'd get into the driver's seat from sleeping in the back seat and would just be saying she's grateful to even have a car. The girls are in this moment receptive, as they should be. And Nia lets them know that what hurt her the most is, again, that they all waited until she got up from the table to talk about her when they had an issue with her. In confessional, Janet is back to being an asshole. You had started to win me over, Janet. She says she's grateful and happy to see Nia being honest, but the behavior didn't stop. My husband has never once hid in a cupboard, chugging tequila and making people uncomfortable. Well, number one, this isn't about Jason, and also that you know of. Just kidding. Jason, we love you. Stay non-toxic, please, sir. We need at least one male on Bravo. It isn't a shit show, but apparently, according to the previews, that's not going to last forever. Janet, again, I was liking you, and now you went for Nia again. Nope. Janet tells Nia the reason she also had a reaction to Daniel being passed out was because something strange happened when we got back to the house after wine tasting. Girl, you were not having a reaction. Come on. In all of that, no, that was not a reaction. Get the F out of here. You were being a friend of getting the main characters riled up. That's all you know how to do. Again, Janet, I was liking you, and then you went for Nia. She tells Nia about the tequila incident with Daniel, saying it made her uncomfortable because if he was doing something he clearly didn't want everyone to see, she didn't want to be a part of it. I get that. I do. But she then says, if you are ever having concerns about his drinking, I don't want you, because of how Santa Barbara went down, to think you don't have friends you could go to. I was in a relationship for years with somebody who had drug and alcohol problems. And then Nia, keep going, babe. Keep going. Because she tells Janet, I feel like that's a really big statement for you to make. And says she knows Janet is trying to be nice and all, but she's making a pretty big ass statement. Jasmine jumps in saying that Janet was just saying because he was in a closet kind of drinking, that's what she's going on about. But Nia tells her that Janet compared it to someone with drug and alcohol problems. And that's when Jasmine's like, oh, I missed that. Didn't hear Janet saying that part. So Janet, you're on your own, girl. In confessional, Nia says Janet is so off base and that she came to this dinner for a resolution. But now Janet is insinuating her husband has a drug and alcohol problem, adding, this is the worst apology that I've ever heard. Janet says that if you're hiding something, it's an issue. Yeah, I mean, what Janet is saying is not totally off base. She should have left the drug part out, but it was so incredibly insensitive in the timing. I mean, and then in confessional, Janet says, yeah, because God forbid I compare a very painful and difficult experience I went through to Nia's perfect fucking husband. No wonder Janet and Sheena are such good friends. They have an incredibly keen ability to turn everything into being about themselves. But Janet tells Nia that it was in an uncomfortable moment and she wanted to tell her, okay, fine. That's fine. That's one thing. But then you added in an insinuation that Danny has drug and alcohol problems. And Nia points out the obvious. Everybody was drinking. And Kristen Empath Doty says the most important thing is that if anyone has a problem, then they need to go directly to the person. And the ladies do a pinky promise on it. And in confessional, Nia says that at the moment, it doesn't feel like Janet is being a friend and that she and Danny have worked through and what she and Danny have worked through and experienced is really just being weaponized right now. So yeah, I agree. Nia leaves first and they all sit back down with Brittany saying, I feel like that was really positive. Okay, well, I guess. Jasmine says she still feels like Nia's being a little tiptoey, I guess, because she doesn't like when somebody cries in front of her. And Kristen goes in to defend Nia because, of course, duh. And Jasmine says it felt like Nia was thinking that the whole thing was more about her and Danny's relationship, but that she wanted to be as clear as possible that it wasn't. While Kristen points out that Nia has just poured her heart out to them. And Jasmine tells her that she's not saying Daniel has a drinking problem, but that she knows there are signs. And let me just be so for real. I think maybe Danny doesn't have an alcohol addiction problem, but I think that he does have an alcohol problem because he just does not seem as though he's a good drinker at this point. Not many people are to begin with. Let's be real. But at the same time, like, y'all, he's had really bad behavior that has resulted in real consequences to his marriage and that relationship and his relationship with his friends. So I'm not discounting that. Okay. I want to be very clear. It all goes back to Janet saying he chugged the tequila, and Janet says it's about how Nia is still being so defensive. Well, you made it sound like he's comparable to what you're making sound like an abusive relationship that you had with a drug and alcohol addict. Of course she's going to get defensive. And Kristen points out that it is dangerous to call someone an alcoholic, and not to mention that they could be taking money from a household with 3 little kids I mean, no one is going to be hiring Danny for voiceover if they think he's an alcoholic. They'll assume he'd come in hungover or have no voice from drinking alcohol all night. So, yeah. They're denying that they called him an alcoholic, with Jasmine pointing out the shit he did do on Halloween all over again. And in confessionals, she says that in Danny's mind, it seems that because he apologized for the behavior, it should be over and good. But she does admit that she's not sure if it's really just trauma from being a female navigating this world. I mean, girl, I get it. And points out that if someone in their friend group went up to Nia, grabbed her ass, told her, get daddy a drink, he needs to consider how he would have felt about that. And that is also fair. She tells the girls that she really does want to move past this, and this dinner will be concluded now, apparently, with the ladies continuing to talk behind Nia's back. I just, and there was something really perfect that was pointed out in the after show as well, which is that Brittany being this triggered by Nia kind of covering up for Danny when, remember last year, Jax was blaming Brittany's drinking on everything. She was sick. Well, you want to be, and you want to have another kid, stop drinking, be a mother. You're not even a mother. You're drinking too much, yelling at her and Big Bear, things like that. So it's a pretty fair point that they all made, that she's twice as triggered for all the times that she stood up for him, and that when it was one of the times that she'd been drinking, he wouldn't even do it for her. So there's just so many underlying issues here that have to be addressed in therapy. Nia comes home, and you know what? Bless that mess. I cannot imagine having those 3 kids in that very, very small space. Before you judge, you have no idea how much destruction, or maybe you do know, one tiny human can cause within a home. Danny's folding laundry, but they go in their room and chat. She tells him how it all ended fine at the dinner, but it's emotionally draining, and how Janet had told her that if she does need to talk to someone about Danny's drinking, that she can do that with them, along with how Janet had to bring up that she had an ex with drug and alcohol issues, and how because of that, she can be there for her, which obviously Danny is going to be very incredulous at. In confessional, Danny says Janet is trying to stir up something, saying that Janet cannot be making statements like that. And Janet and Jax Taylor are the same. Come on. Nia tells him how she stood up to Janet when she said this to her about Danny's drinking. And also, bless you, sweet little Nia, that you actually believe that Janet heard and understood you on that. Because we cut over to Janet and Jason's house, where she's recounting the evening to him. And it's actually daytime if you saw the shutters, so it was the next day. Anyway, she's saying that Nia can't keep protecting someone, her own husband, who is doing something wrong when what he's doing is affecting others' relationships. So that's Melissa and Jasmine, obviously. And Jason says that Danny needs to know his limits, and that hiding the alcohol and the things he's doing should raise questions on Danny's relationship with alcohol. I genuinely don't disagree with anything that's been said here. I wish that maybe Janet had approached it the way she's approaching it with Jason, because she does seem to say one thing to people's faces and then goes back and recounts what actually happened in a totally different way. Okay. Nia is telling Danny that there was one more thing Janet said. And she tells him how Janet had told her about him sneaking the tequila in the pantry and felt it was a secret she didn't want to be a part of. And that was also fair. But this makes Daniel huff in a laugh, and Nia checks him hard, telling him not to laugh because she wants him to take this very seriously, especially because she's the one who keeps getting hammered on about it. She explains to him that closing the door when he took the shot made it look like he was hiding it. But I think this is also important. He lets her know that this was the location of the bottles of the alcohol. It's not like he took a bottle in there with him and hid it, because why would he do that in front of Janet? That would have been even weirder. But yeah, Nia thought this whole time he took a bottle in there and did it with, that he did this. She didn't realize the alcohol was in there, which gives me more of that, Janet, you little shit stirrer. And now they nitpick over his little nervous laugh. And Jason with Janet says he feels that he does need to talk to Danny. And now it's super clear that Jason and Janet, again, were filming that scene during the day, not at night, like they were making it seem. Anywho, that's really the conclusion of this episode. It didn't have a ton in it, and I felt like it was very unfair to put everything on Nia. And I do understand that Nia was kind of blasing over the issues Danny has had with incidents revolving around his drinking. I get that. And I think Jasmine has every right to be upset and triggered by it. I think what it needed to be more about was we need to have a conversation about the amount Danny drinks, especially like when he does, especially when he's around me, because I don't feel safe with how he's behaved in the past. And from what we know happened, she has every right to say she doesn't feel safe or comfortable. And, that's part of consequences of the actions. Again, I don't think, in my opinion, at this point in the show, I don't feel that Danny has an alcohol addiction issue, but I do feel that he has issues with alcohol. Those are two totally different things, in my opinion. Anyway, besties, thank you again for listening. Please, like I said, leave a little 5-star review with what you love about the show. Like this video here on YouTube, comment, join the conversation, and be sure and follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Besties by Caitlin, Caitlin. Check out the Pop Culture Besties Etsy merch shop where like 99% of it is Bravo merch. My friends, I will see you tomorrow for Summer House. And it's the finale. Y'all, your girl here has been working her tiny whiny off. And it's going to continue. Okay. Thanks again for joining, besties. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.